Okay. Good morning and welcome to a live podcast. I'm your host, Bob Pace, and this morning we are talking about CPS. It's the secret, not really, but anyway, we're talking about how to fight them and get our children back. We do have a guest speaker. He'll be talking shortly. I just have a couple things to tell everybody out there that if you want to text in a comment, feel free to do so. Make sure you put where you're calling from, what state, our country. I've had several countries utilize us, and then what your allegations are and what children involved and your question, and we'll try to help you answer that. This show is um, produced by Vincent W. Davis Associates, a law firm based in Southern California. The lead attorney is Vincent W. Davis. He is a family law attorney that does uh, exclusively with family law matters such as your children being taken away and fighting CPS. He's a professional. He knows how to win cases against CPS, and he does return your children. He's also a trial attorney. He practices in Southern California, Northern California, and all the 50 states. Um, he's right now offering a special, a 30-minute to an hour consultation about how to the strategies of how to get your children back and how to fight CPS. Um, so he can be reached at 888-888-6582. That's my office. And make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you, and then you can schedule a time with him. Also, at the little ticket down below, there's a website that has his calendar up so you can pick out the date and time. But you have nothing to lose by talking to him. It's 1 hour free time, so there's nothing to lose there. And if you like him, retain him. He's a good attorney. He will fight your case. And as I found out, and everybody else, that you need a attorney to negotiate through CPS and fight them because they know so much more. It's like doing a open heart surgery without a doctor. You need a doctor, so that's the same thing goes there. Also, if you want to be a guest on the show, like Uno is, you can call in at 888-888-6582 and tell them that you want to be a guest on the show and the time. I'm on twice a day, 7 days a week, 10 in the morning and 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time. So pick one of those times you like to talk. I love to hear from you. And for somebody that may not know what CPS is, it's Child Protection Services. It has other acronyms in other states, but it's a branch of social services that deals with the protection of our children, supposedly, and reunification with the family. They're supposed to protect our children from neglect or abuse, but as you'll find out, that's not necessarily the case. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Uno, and you're free to talk. And I may ask you questions from time to time, but I'm glad to have you. Really am.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone. I'm here in Fairbanks, Alaska, and it's only by the grace of God that I'm even allowed to tell everybody this. So, at some point in time, CPS got involved, and it was literally the day my son came into the world. Uh, a caseworker came inside our delivery room while the mother was still covered in afterbirth and blood, persistent on trying to get into the room to express himself with no consideration that, my wife just delivered a baby. Soon thereafter was the same caseworker broke into my home and I made a police report, which I still have the originals for everything that I've gone through. And the first time that I went in front of a judge, I was told to bring my child into the courtroom, which I did. After 3 hours of sitting in a courtroom with my new son, that judge at the current time told the state that there's nothing wrong here. I'm not court ordering me, the father, to give them any information. I watched the lawyer for the state side get up, leave the courtroom, go downstairs. They filed a piece of paper, came back upstairs, and then the next thing I knew, they bumped my judge, and a new one came in, and then they proceeded to take my child.
Wow. Wow.
During this whole course, after that, I made a police report, which I have the originals of everything that I'm saying. I brought this up, and I've been through two case plans to let everybody know I am a survivor of doing two case plans for my entire family. I've been through, which I have proof, at least 9 to 10 caseworkers, 5 SSSs, SSAs. I've been through 8 lawyers, 9 judges, all for this same case. And in that time, I have information directly contrary to everything that the state has done. They have continuously slandered my family, used my children's name to help them slander my family, coerced me to divorce my wife, and completely tried to isolate me from everything, even the support system that I needed to do my case plans with. By the end of, I don't know, it's been 5 or 6 years, I finally got a lawyer to help me get an appeal, which is he was in Michigan and I'm in Alaska. So all the lawyers that I went through, they conflict of interest out of me. So nobody here is willing to take the case because they all know the truth and they all know that I have documentations. And when I say documentations, I've been recording everything since the moment I knew that they were untrustworthy to be trusted. So at this current time, I got an appeal, and now they want to give me the lawyer who said that they could no longer help me. And this is a lawyer that I wanted to trust really, really well because this is the only lawyer who saw the truth, seen the truth, and spoke the truth. And this person wept for me and my children because of the truth. And now they want me to have this person all over again. So the best thing I can give out to any other people is to keep all the originals of everything and document everything. If you got to get more than one device, to one to do audios and one to do videos, I would do it. I have 500 gigs of information, an 800-page discovery that I've gone through, and I'm in the process now of going through everything, which is all traumatizing because I have to do it alone. And it's really, really hard, but all I can do is tell people just don't give up if you have this stuff. And that's pretty much in the short run of what it is. You know, I've had caseworkers plant information that never existed, which means they were wasting government money to try to make false claims towards me. Um, I've had them try to purposely make me miss visits just so they can say I miss visits. I had them try to get me to miss court hearings just on purpose, just to try to further their so-called cause against me. And it's been really hard if I didn't keep everything all the time. And it's very, very challenging to feel like you have to do this physically alone. And I'm even currently at work because I can't trust the areas that I'm in and leave my paperwork behind. So for the past week, because I felt that it was necessary, that I have family in different locations, and I explained to them, and they know a lot of it. Like one family member during certain parts of my case, I wanted her to adopt my kids. CPS had her information, which I have the recordings of all my hearings, all my TDMs, where they had her information. They would get in front of a judge and claim they don't have the information. but here it is recorded. So they tried to stop my family for getting my children. And to FYI, I live in a place where it's called Ikwa law, which means my children are part Indian and should go to immediate family or someone of Indian nature. They didn't even want that because they already predetermined what they were trying to do to my family. So it's been quite a bit of a challenge, but in all, I kept originals to where like the original paperwork. After I've been in front of so many judges, they tried to cut and paste different things, thinking that I wouldn't read any of this stuff. But I saw the changes that they tried to make and things that were added that were never in the originals. So you always gotta at least keep tabs on your information because they'll try to put things in there to try to harm you and your family with no consideration whatsoever. So that's what I've been going through in a short run.
Okay. I am really embrace you because you've said something that's so true about CPS. I've been doing about 100 cases, over 100 cases here, live on the show here from all walks of life. 1 second here. We did have a comment come in, and the comment was the only way to fight CPS and win is if you have millions of dollars. That's why these subhumans get away doing our children. They make false allegations uh, against everyone. Judges are corrupt. I'm putting that on for a second. That's Jeannie. I don't know where you're from, Jeannie, if you can tell me where you're from, but I'm pretty sure Uno will agree with that, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And CPS is very, very bad. Right now, social workers don't have to have a license or any kind of skill to be a social worker. They don't even have to have a college degree. They right now are hired, most of them are very young. And right now, CPS has a racket. They're the only legal agency I know that it can legally steal your children. I mean, steal your children. They don't ask, they steal your children. They use deception, they use false lies, they implant things. What Uno is saying is 100% true. I've had a couple cases of good incidents, but it's really rough. I can see what Uno's going. Some questions, Uno, if you could help me out so I understand a little bit better.
Oh,
Um, you had a child removed shortly. I mean, you had a social worker show up shortly after birth. Were you already in a CPS case? Were you already investigating by social services?
no.
That what in the why did the social service show up to where your wife was having
Um,
the baby?
this was because the mother had tested positive for alcohol and marijuana.
Okay, that's the
So
one of
that
the
was their
that was
initial
right. Yeah,
reason.
they're what they can do, and this is the problem: is that the nurse or the doctors, whoever tested her, reported it, and they have to by law. The way CPS is structured, they are the lead agency. They're not transparent. They're not accountable, but they're given free reins. And you are guilty until you're proven innocent. It's different than other courts of law where you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But in this case, and the allegations are made, they have to investigate. And so they showed up to try to do things. And I don't know. You could have said, um, uh, uh, you're unless you have a warrant, you're not allowed to be here. You have to leave the room. You don't have to talk to them. That's one thing I didn't know. But social workers, you don't have to say a word to them. You don't have to show them your home. You don't have to speak with them. You don't have presence. It's the law. They have to have a warrant. Even the police are the same boat. And so what's happened is this social worker thinks they're on a power trip, and they want to ruin supposedly a beautiful moment. Your
Right.
wife may have tested positive, but you could do another test to see if it's negative. If it's true, then she can go through treatment and classes, and the child, there should be a way of having the child with you that take care of while she does the program and
Right.
family education. They're required by law. Now, you mentioned a very important thing that ICWA, which stands for the Indian Welfare Child Act, it was started in 1979, and what it told CPS workers that anybody of native Indian blood, part blood, full blood, that is with a tribe or could be registered with a tribe. Sometimes they're not registered, they can be registered. Then CPS must contact all the tribes to see if this person is registered or could be registered. Because the reason why this law was enacted is that the CPS has to give the tribe the child, and tribe are better able to handle CPS matter. They're not in there to make money, and there are professional people within the tribe, and the tribe takes care of their own. They're on they're on private land, their own property that the federal government can't come on. And that's why wherever the reservations, I don't know what particular tribe it is, but they're supposed to make that effort, and you're supposed to insist on that too. A lot of people don't know what ICWA is, and I do talk about it daily on my show. That's an important act, and sometimes it's better than letting CPS workers steal your children, put them in shelters, put them in group homes, put them in foster care, because as soon as they grab your child, the clock starts ticking with money. They get federal funds and state funds. They're not cheap funds. They get exorbitant amount of funds every month for these children, and they hope that in time they will be adopted in foster care, and then that way they got those funds into their 18 years of age. So that's why CPS is interested, because somehow they found a lucrative business. Now in California, it's $1 billion business where I live, where they make the money. The social workers that I've been involved in were very young, immature, and didn't have any years experience with family reunification. Here is a young 22-year-old woman sitting here telling me how to family reunify me, and my allegations weren't from a professional people. They were false allegations by a family member, not my family, my wife's family, who wanted to take away her kids. There's a real important term that you mentioned. I didn't say it, but it's called alienation. That is against the law. You cannot alienate someone from your children. CPS does alienation all the time. They will try to pit your children against you. The couples going through a custody battle will alienate you, and so forth. And um, so because she tested positive, CPS showed up. You should have told them to please leave unless you have a court order. You're not allowed to stay here. Not allowed to talk to my wife. I don't want you to talk to us. And then at that time, you should get some attorney for some attorney for advice. Now I don't know what your financial things are, because I didn't get an attorney in the beginning, because I had lost my job and my income was getting depleted because I had a very expensive lifestyle and I was trying to save my home. And so I went with a public defender, and that was a big mistake. I don't know if you've had a public defender, but there are 20 people caseload, and they do not uh, really fight for your case and make wills and deals. And the courts where I'm at, the dependency courts, the judges are not qualified. My judge knew all about damage to cars and how to make a claim with property damage and so forth. They knew nothing about family reunification. They weren't even a family lawyer. This judge was, and they're in cahoots with the social worker attorneys. They social worker attorneys are really bad. They know all the tricks and schemes. You mentioned your social
Yeah.
worker attorney went downstairs and filed a form to replace the judge. You can do the same thing. You, as a victim's case, can replace a judge. You can also replace a social worker. You can also replace a public defender. I find out that that you may have to go through a lot of public defenders if you have to go that course. I used my money, my mortgage from my house, to pay my attorney when I finally got one a year and a half into my case. But I went through a nightmare where I once had a beautiful family, and I had three young children at the time, three older children that were fine, doing well in life. But my three younger children were caught up in this ridiculous circus that CPS puts you through as parents. It wasn't because they're accusing us of doing drugs or accusing us of battering the children or causing physical harm or anything sexual to the children. What it was is that um, they kept persisting following the allegations that my wife's family was giving, and that's where it's really, 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 really tough. And where they got me on is that I had a perfect storm brewing. Not only did I lose my job, but I was having my parents dying, and they wanted to liquidate their home to get money to take care of them, and they want me to take their belongings. And I did, but in doing so, what it did is it made my home a clutter. It made with boxes and furnitures, and they said, "Well, that's neglect to your children. You're not making it safe. Those boxes could jump upstairs and grab them in their bedroom, or the furniture have legs and they could walk up the stairs and attack them." That's how ridiculous they were looking at. And I know what you're going through. I feel you there, and so forth. But what I like to further, if you could elaborate your story a little bit, how did now you mentioned an attorney from Michigan? Was that a pro bono or was that a public
Um,
defender?
see, honestly, I wasn't sure until just recently, and like I said, I've been through at least 9 lawyers because every time they switched me a caseworker, they switched me a lawyer because of me having the truth. So when the lawyer I had before the Michigan person was here and told me after 2 years that they could no longer represent me, knowing the truth, they sent me to a person in Michigan. And when he got the appeal in front of the Supreme Court in Alaska, he sent me the information and then followed by, I can no longer help you or represent you anymore. So imagine going through this many people, and all it was doing was damaging me on the inside more and more and more and more, because between all the judges, which I have records, who didn't want information, my own lawyers turning on me, their lawyers turning on me, every single entity that they send you to, the therapies and all of that, they all keep circles, period. And when the Michigan lawyer told me he could no longer represent me, I was like done with else in myself, until I woke up one day and said, you know what, that's it. If I got to do my own paperwork and stuff and go somewhere to seek help, which was an option, I wanted to go home to my family who was going to adopt my kids. And I was told that if I left the state of Alaska, that I would be abandoning my children. And so I set up a tent in Alaska and I lived outside for some time. And a few months later, that current caseworker, which I recorded this, was so happy to tell me that they were taking my kids out of state with no permission, no order. My rights wasn't terminated as the father, and they just took them, which is totally kidnapping. So they done a lot of things to not only try to harm me outwardly, but mostly inwardly. Because for one, there's no programs up here for a dad. For fathers who are going through such a thing, there's nothing here for us whatsoever. So it makes it even more challenging.
Hmm. Well, Uno, you said that they're taking out of state. Where are they taking your? For instance, how many children are we talking about? One or
Five,
five children? Now
5 sons. Yep.
you have a newborn, and then you have four other ones. Are the four ones? What are the age of the four other ones?
The oldest one now is in his 20s.
Okay.
Right after that is 16, 15, 6, and 5.
Now, did
So
you
it's
have
been a
any
while.
any problem with those four children with CPS?
No, they're all in it. Like I was saying prior, they double case plan me. So I am a survivor that I had to work a case plan for the 3 older ones from a different mother who I was married to, and then the second case plan for my other ones, which whom I was married to. And instead of joining our case plans like a judge requested, they wanted to not only harm me, isolate me, and segregate the family. So I had to do double the work, one for each case plan.
Well, did you? Here's my thing: is were there separate allegations with the four other children? The children that was born, the allegation was the mom was alleged to do drugs, and
Yeah,
so that is neglect, and so that's why that is. I understand why CPS is investigating that, but the four other children, why are they involved at all?
that was from their other mother, which was the same thing,
She had drugs too.
from my
Okay,
understanding of reading the
right.
paperwork. Yeah,
Okay, okay. So um, you've had two wives married, and both of them had drug problems. Now, were these false or were they true?
from my understanding, they were true.
Okay. So when you say your understanding, like were you distanced from the first mother, or I'm kind of confused. I mean, were you living together,
Well, to
or
be honest, we were married, and then I remember just going to sleep one day, and then the next thing I knew, my face was split open, and I knew that I had to leave the situation.
oh my goodness,
So,
so you
like
were
this is
attacked
a this yeah,
by the
yeah
first mother?
by the mother while I was sleeping. She hit me
Oh,
with a step stool. Like this is, and I'm not trying to go pity party or anything like that because it's way beyond that. I'm just telling things as it happened, and for this entire time, it's just been continuous assaults on me and my children. And like I
okay.
said, there's
So that's
nothing here
why
for dads.
CPS is involved with the other children because of the violence between you and your wife. Um, so your first wife, you have this domestic violence where she battered you with a chair. Did you guys ever used to argue in front of the children?
No,
Okay, because that is wrong too. For all you listeners out there, do not argue in front of the children because that is the verbal domestic violence that is wrong. So if you have a disagreement, you need to talk with your wife or your partner away from the children. So she was doing that. Was she upset because you did something to her? Or, I mean, why would
that
she?
was over 16 something years ago, and I finally got that away. So that was so long ago that all I can remember is a thump, me waking up covered in blood, and then that was it.
Well, she would have to have a reason to do it. I can't believe anybody
I
would do
haven't
that.
I haven't been able to have a civil conversation with her in years. The last thing she
Okay.
ever told me was, "You should sign over your rights and give up already." I
Did,
literally got up, I went to the bathroom, I wept, and I came back out of the bathroom and I looked her in the face real hard and serious and I told her this. God told me I'm not allowed to do what you're asking me to do, and I have no right to do what you're asking me to do. And ever since then, I've never talked to her.
so you never filed a police report for domestic violence?
No.
Okay, well, that was something you should have done. I know it'd be hard to protect her, but you should file domestic violence, and then they would have given you a restraining order, and then the children would be involved by the social workers, and they'd have to determine whether they stay with you or stay with the mom. And if there is violence, they would most likely stay with you. But did you have a home at that time with those children?
See, no, because I was military, and I there was no way for me to go back home to New York.
Okay.
And I wind up living with her and her family and doing stuff like that. So right out the gate, if that would have happened, there would have been no place for me to have the children at that current
Right,
time.
right. Now, did they were those children of Indian blood, or is that your next
No, that
child?
was that was from my first marriage. No,
They're not with Indian blood, so you couldn't have used ICWA.
no.
Okay. And then did they talk about having the children stay with a family, one of the family members, an aunt, uncle, grandmother, a brother, or sister?
From my understanding, they went through a couple of their aunts, their grandparents, and
Okay.
they were shifted around quite a bit.
And so you're removed from the picture, even though you're the father.
Yeah,
Was that because of your choice, or because you had an order to
that
stay
was
away?
because the hostility inside the
Okay.
family, and
Right.
that
Okay.
was eventually when I got my own place. They finally gave me a trial home visit,
Oh, okay.
and when I started to go through the facts of seeing the discrepancies that were going on with my older kids, I asked the caseworkers for help. Their version of help was to remove my kids and then call it a false home trial. And this is what they did. And I have paperwork where it stated
Wow.
I requested help. I have the paperwork. And they decided to help by taking them away and then canceling my visits with them completely.
Okay. Okay. Uno, at this moment, I want to take a quick break to tell our audience, the people listen. We have about 5 people right now listening to this live broadcast. This broadcast is found on Facebook. It's streamed on YouTube, and again, this is uh, um, produced by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. Uh, the law attorney of that case is Vincent W. Davis. He's a family law attorney, and he is a professional attorney. Has fought CPS. Does have experience in working in Southern California, Northern California. He's worked in a lot of the states. So not only does he work locally, but he works across the United States. And he does know how to fight CPS and win. He does know how to get kids back. I used him, but it took me a year and a half to finally realize I needed an attorney. I was trying to do open heart surgery by myself, and that's not a really good thing to do there. So if you uh, right now he's offering a free consultation strategy meeting, meaning that for 30 minutes to an hour he'll talk to you about how to fight CPS and your case and strategies to get your children back. And all you have to do is call into 888 say that Bob Pace sent you, and then he'll schedule a time and a date with him. And the calendar for him is on the bottom part of the screen. It's a ticket going across, and you go to that website. It'll tell his schedule there. Again, if you want to be a guest speaker on the show, it's 888 Call in, tell them what day you want to be on, and what time. I'm on, 7 days a week, twice a day, one at 10 a.m. and again at 7 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time. Right now we have a guest speaker, Uno, who has pretty complex case. The more I talk to him, more I'm understanding it. It involves, uh, I guess, two groups of children and two wives, and one ended up in a horrible mess. He is a veteran, and he had um, sounds like he loved a family, idea of a family, and loves kids. He wouldn't be sitting here if he didn't. And so, all of you that are listening, if you're really hurting, I feel for you. One person did text a comment, Jeannie R. I don't know what state you're in, but you must be going through a similar thing. And so, um, that being said, so now that I understand your first relationship with your other children, and now with this child that was taken from the second woman that you married, um, has she been going through drug testing and programs related to her drug involvement?
All right, this part is it's kind of difficult, but I'll just tell it as
Okay,
it is.
it's okay.
As time passed, this and like I said, the caseworker came in while she was still covered in blood and afterbirth, which not only traumatized her. My first newborn with her, his first fight was with a caseworker and
Yeah,
his parents in a room.
and I can't
It
believe that.
it totally destroyed her,
How did they
and
get in the room? What was their? Was the
he
doctors
just
that stupid?
he just came in. I'm sorry because I'm literally almost reliving it. So he comes in the room, he states his name and who he is, and of course, a woman just giving birth, they have extra hormones. People know this. You know what I'm trying to say.
Right. No,
They're
no.
more elevated right
But
out the
wouldn't
gate.
but
Who are
wouldn't it,
you?
yeah,
What are
wouldn't it
you doing? And
right.
why are you in here? So he decides to get into an arguing match with the woman who just gave birth. Eventually, I got to get him outside the door, and I gave him my number to
Now
reach us.
where
A
was
number.
where was the physician that was given the birth here? Where was
They were pacing back and forth outside the room. If I could, and like I said, this was years
So
ago, but I'm trying to see it again.
you
They
have a
were outside the room.
malpractice. You have a malpractice because any professional, and it's a doctor, don't let strangers in the room. I don't care if it's police or anything, unless it's a life or death matter of a shooting. But they're told to wait outside, and there should have been some official called to the hospital. It sounds like there's a lot of violations there, a lot of
Yeah.
legal things you go against the hospital and stuff to make your wife go through trauma. And that guy was not a professional. You can
No.
file a complaint against that social worker. You could also file a lawsuit against that social worker for violating your civil rights. They do not have a right to talk to you or come. They can ask for your permission. You can say no, and you could have cut him off and say, "Please leave the room. You don't have a court order. Please leave the room." And I guess you won't know that. A lot of people out there listening won't know it, but it happens all the time. I allowed people in my home, which I thought was okay. That was a mistake because right away they could see my parents' belongings, and that way they could make it extreme enough to steal my children and put them into a shelter that was bee infested, and it was next to a prison and next to the dependency court that was overcrowded and terrible food. That's how they protected my children. And since then, it was downhill for 3 years to the point where my youngest daughter, who was 12 at the time, was divorced her parents, and she was alienated from us as a parents, which is against law. Alienation is wrong. You do not alienate anybody. I don't care if you alienate anybody. You're doing a wrong thing, and um, you're supposed to be civil and work things out. But as you find out that social workers seem to be animals because they're not professionals. They're not skilled, licensed, or trained to do the job. They don't even have a mentor program. They should have a minimum of 10 years to be mentor before they actually involve themselves in cases. Because how can you I mean, it's like a doctor. Do you think a doctor doing open heart surgery should say he finished medical school, but he hasn't done his internship? You think he'd be able to operate? No, they don't.
No.
He has to have a license. A policeman has to have a license. Teachers have to have license. And what's so bad is that social workers are not licensed individuals. There's no credentials. There's nothing, and they're also uncontrolled. They're allowed to do what they want to do, and they think they're on a power trip, and no one will investigate them. And it is bad. They are being sued. They are losing cases, but it's a slow process. And so, anyway, so this social worker really made a bad experience. And the woman that you
Sure.
are you with the woman that gave birth
No,
to that child?
no, no. See, that's the part. And now, mind you, when this case, my first interaction with the caseworkers, this was 2016, because I have the paperwork right here, so I can give
Right,
you an exact
right.
date. Now,
Understood.
after all of this time happened, they didn't want to reunify. All they wanted to do was separate. So now the mother of these children is pretty much, I would, let's say, in a mental institution, because it traumatized her so much that all she did was thought that she can hear the kids within walls, on the floors, in car seats. I mean, it got so bad to where I couldn't even recognize her no more. And she's been where she's been
Oh,
at for some time now. And I don't want to go too much on it because she's not here to speak for herself. But I had to also go to watch what happened to her from the day she gave birth to her current state now. And not only did they do that, they destroyed her as well as my family and as well as myself. And like I said, I kept records of everything. I have maybe 3,000 videos, 3,000 audios. I've got posts. Like, it's so bad that, like I said, none of the lawyers will take it here, and they keep pushing me away. And I'm at the point where I think I need to go out of state for help, because they're not going to help me here because they're all involved with it.
yeah, that is a conflict of interest, and also they want to protect themselves because they have a business they want to do, and they don't
Yep.
want to get a bad mark and stuff like that. It's really, it's really, really, really tough. Now, what is game plan now? I mean, we know where you're at. So what are you trying to do
Um,
to get your children with you?
as far as what I'm physically doing for the past week, I've been sending all the information I have to those who I could trust. My next goal is that my next hearing, I think, is the first of this month. But like I said, they gave me a lawyer who already refused and denied me and my family, is pretty much. So I have to
What do you mean they gave you a
find
lawyer? I'm confused. What do you mean they give
oh,
you a lawyer?
okay, the lawyer who they reassigned me to is the lawyer they gave me before the guy in Michigan.
Well, wait, are
Because
these public defenders?
public defenders, one's in
Okay,
a private agency and the other one is
okay.
public
Can
advocacy. I
you
can't
can
say it
you
right.
get can you afford a real lawyer or get a
No,
lawyer that
because ever since they got my kids into their custody, I work, so 2/3 of my check automatically goes away. I pretty much have enough money to eat for that current week and pretty much pay for my phone, and then I'm done. Everything else I take as support or donations right now.
okay, okay. Um, well, uh, um, I admire you what you're trying to do. It's really hard. I mean, are you familiar with the 388 petition?
I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, yeah, that is a petition that's used to enter some new evidence or some things that are completed. Like, for instance, if your wife's been drug free testing for, say, 6 months, you'd enter all the drug tests and enter those in there. If you completed courses in parenting classes or other kinds of classes you had to take, anger management or those kinds of things, it's a tool that's used by attorneys to introduce into court uh, to change the current plan. So you have a current plan right now. And the only way you're going to change it is use a 388, and you have to submit uh, um, paperwork that you need to exhibit all your exhibits. Now, I will admire you for one thing. You're really good keeping notes and videotapes and stuff. You're allowed to do so. And I tell everybody, when your case starts off, you should open a notebook and you should put every incident you involved in. You should put the date and the time, what people were involved, what was the incident, and what was the outcome. And you want to keep that in a notebook so that way you can refer to it later on because it's going to take more. Some people start out thinking it's going to be a month long experience with it. I'm trying to tell you, mine started in 2010, shortly after I lost my job, and they didn't get involved to take my kids into 2015. So I was 60 at the time. I was 65 when they stole my children, and then in 2017, 3 years later, I got two of my boys back, and my daughter went with adoption and divorced her parents, changed her name, and kissed us goodbye, which is a sad state of affair because we love our family. So um, I know that if you use this 388, you can enter into court. It's also used to change the venue, change your judge, and stuff like that. I don't know. Is this a dependency court you're in? A family court?
It's just the regular courthouse here in Alaska, and I know things here are different than other places, and this is what
True.
makes it even more challenging.
Right, right.
And
Now, are you?
even say again.
Yeah, I said, are you allowed to sit in the court the whole time your case is being talked about?
Now, see, there's where it came to another setful because after COVID, I used to be able to go in there in person.
Okay.
Now they're at the point where I could only do it over the phone. And then during the subpoena, I wasn't even allowed to be there at all, which is another thing. So it's like more alienation to
Yep.
where
Yep.
I'm not being allowed to have
Your rights. Your
my
civil
stuff
rights. Yeah,
given
your
to
civil
me,
rights. Yeah, your
and
civil rights.
it's more over to the fact where they don't want the truth to get out, but I have so much after 5 years that it's almost an open and shut case. It's just
Yeah.
that nobody here will take it because they are a part of it, and not only lawyers, judges, caseworkers, the therapists. I had to record everybody after my first experience with them to see how they actually work. And this is why I've been through so many caseworkers, so many SSAs, so many judges, so many lawyers, because of what I've been doing to help keep track of everything for me and my sons.
Yeah, we're right now we are talking about the 14th Amendment. I know in politics right now. And it isn't only doing with the insurrection thing. It says, and this is really important here, that no state shall make or enforce any law which should abridge the privileges or immunity of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor deny any person with jurisdiction on the equal protection of the laws. See, I just wanted to bring that out because um, uh, it's uh, it's something that is does more than what we think about. Our amendments, which is really our Constitution that we go by, um, we are supposed to be given all the rights affordable in this case. We're supposed to be in that courtroom when the case is being discussed. There's supposed to be transparency. The first week when your kids are stolen from you, they have a planning meeting to determine where your child's going to be for a period of time if they think it's extremely can't be with you. It's called a planning meeting, a safety planning meeting.
Yep.
And they usually start that off. And I hope you don't mind me talking about some of the stuff because I want other listeners out here to hear this stuff
No,
because
go for it.
you're very informative. But I'm trying to help out everybody that's listening in, and this is broadcast over and over and over again, so people are hearing this that are not even there at the time it was live. But it's really important that your constitutional rights and the things that CPS must do. They must do family reunification, and they have to do that. They must do the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. They must contact the tribes, the Indian tribes. That is required. That is a law for them to follow. They need to have your children safe at all times. Foster care, a lot of times, is not safe. Foster care does more harm than good. And it's sad because there are good foster parents out there. There's good out there, but it's really sad right now because you're in Alaska. Tell me what's going on. I feel like I'm in California with what you're saying. Somebody from Maine the other day was talking about cases. I even had a girl from Nova Scotia in Canada talk about her problems. There was a girl from Kent in the United Kingdom having trouble with CPS. A guy from Australia was having problems. It's a worldwide issue. It's a worldwide problem. We can't fix it all. I know through elections of judges, this is being election year, it's very important to have judges that are qualified. People don't only look at candidates, who's going to be the president, who's going to be the vice president. They forget to look at the judges. The judges are the most important aspects, I think, of the elections. And I don't know why I say that, but you want to make sure people are given fair trials, that people are together, are kept together. And it's important to have child protection services with social service because we need to protect our children. There are parents that will endanger their children, throw their child against the wall when they scream too much, do harmful things to children. The sex trade is really rampant. I live in an area where it's the number one place to kidnap children, send them overseas, and they're automatically into prostitution or working for people as slaves. And it's sad because, uh, you know, um, that part that the parents are our social values are broken down a lot. Right now, we give away phones at an early age. It's very common to have a child in the elementary school with a phone, and that phone. The other day, that Congress was talking among all the CEOs of all the social networks. There was, the Twitter. There was the Elon Musk. There was Zuckerberger or Yuckenberger, whatever that guy's name from Facebook, who has also Instagram. There was TikTok and all these things. And all these senators, United States, were asking, why aren't you doing anything to protect our children? There was a case not too long ago up in Michigan. You mentioned Michigan. And what it was is that a young man had sexual pictures put on the internet about him. He felt so bad that he committed suicide. These social networks are where a lot of problems. You wonder why our kids are able to kill kids in schools. is because they're loud on the social media. They learn so much in there. That social media is like a Pandora box. It's nice to be able to talk to your friends and share pictures and laughs, but there's a dark side. There's a dark side of the internet. I mean, the internet is so great, but there's a dark side, and we need to have controls. And one of those controls is parents. Parents need to do, take away the phones, discipline the children, not let them, be so wild and free. It's right now. There's a case on where a parent's being charged with the death of four students because her son was allowed. They bought a gun for him, and her son was exhibiting all kinds of problems, and she did nothing to protect him from the um, the society. You, as a parent, are responsible for your children until they're 18. People don't realize that. What they do, you can be held accountable for it, and that's what that court case is all about. But it's a tremendous um, problems that we have. I mean, we have an influx right now of social services with 1 million people. We have open borders. I mean, it's yesterday that they were talking in Congress that, oh, we need to have this motion to protect our border. The border was protected. It was closed. We had walls and we had a regulation there. Then 4 years later, the border's been left to open and rampant, and now they're talking about trying to fix it again. And now it's become a politic thing. Everything is based in politics, but I don't want to get into politics. But I want to stick to your matter there, Uno, and see if there's something that I can help you um, with your case. We have about 7 minutes left, or 6 minutes
Okay.
left. So, what can we help you with? What are some questions?
It's honestly, I the one thing I that I'm going through, because sorry, because now all the neglect that went on with my kids. I'll make this quick. Like, I haven't even gotten to the fact where my kids would show up to visits with marks, bite marks, bruised lips. I haven't gotten to that, but what I'm going at, because I know for a fact that they're not going to want to help me here. I know it, because going through that many, I don't know how it is to get them to get me outside help, or let alone I wanted to go to a higher level of court, which, from my understanding, is the United States Supreme Court. And I
Yeah,
think that's where it
yeah,
needs to go, because of everything that I have and all those who are involved, that nobody is going to help me there. But the sad part is that me having a lawyer to be able to speak their language, because technically
yes,
I
yes,
have
yes.
everything out and ready. Like I said, what I have is open and shut. It's like done. It's just I don't know nobody's language.
You need a
And that's
band
the
leader. You
hardest
need
part.
somebody that can orchestrate what you have and put it to use there. Uh, a point of
And,
court. You can't go to the Supreme Court until you do the Supreme Court of the state. So the Alaska Supreme Court, you have to go through before they go to the Supreme Court. Just like the incident with Colorado right now, they're going through, or Washington D.C. They go through the local Supreme Court before they go to the Supreme Court. So just a heads up on that, because you can't go to the Supreme. I mean, you could try. I've gone to COs. I mean, I used to know the CO of Bank of America, and if I had a problem with my bank, I went to him with an email. So you can go to the top. I've been a CO myself. I have no trouble talking to presidents. I've met several presidents. Your congressman. You sound like a pre-level guy. That have you tried your local representative, your congressman in your state for help?
um, See, no, because like I said, a lot of this is totally traumatic, and it's not like something that goes away. It's something that's with me day and night, awake and or sleep. I am totally affected, like, but I'm not so affected that I haven't kept notes and kept track of everything. And like I said, I've already went to the Supreme Court for here in Alaska,
Okay.
and that's when they said this case needs to be reopened. But then they wanted to give me a lawyer who's already bailed on my family, on me and my family. Said you couldn't represent us after 2 years of seeing
Wow. And what was his
only
what
forty
was his
percent of the
interest?
information.
What was
Say
his
again.
reason? What was his reason they couldn't
Well,
defend you?
their reasons. Now, see, this is where, because of how much I've went through, the only thing I could think of is they were in danger, their job was in danger, or their children were in danger. That could be the only reason, because this is a person who I've only gave 20% of what I have to show them, and one day they just cried, which I have all of this stuff recorded. I mean, they cried. The only person cried, genuinely cried, and then after 2 years of pushing more information, which they only got 40%, said that they couldn't represent me no more. It had to be because of their job, their livelihood, or their children. There's no other explanation, because like I said, this is open and shut. All I need is somebody to translate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So your goal is to go to the appeal on this. Now, one thing I notice with CPS, no matter what they throw at you, I keep doing it and redo. I mean, I don't give up. They keep wanting you to be alienated or give up. They want you to give up because if you exercise your rights and don't say much to them, it's yes, no answers. Don't show them anything and just only show what you completed. As I say, that 388 will come in handy. It's a form that has to be filed on the lawyer's uh, stationery. It has to be done with the numbers and it has to be correctly executed and signed and so forth. And it's something that attorneys should do. But I hear what you're trying to do, and it's a pursuit because you have a job. Um, are you still living in the tent?
No, 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 no. I've been out of that. You can't live outside in Alaska in a tent for too long without it causing some
I
discrepancies.
agree. I agree. I was admiring you because they live in igloos still, so I thought maybe the tent was like an igloo. But the tent is not very thick. The tent is the thin fabric. An igloo is at least 12 inches thick of of ice, and so the insulation on the inside is
Yep.
good for the elements out there. But um, so you have a place, um, so they could say that you could take care of the children. The children were given back to you. Um, and are you divorced from two of these women, or
Yep.
what's it?
Yeah. 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 They, like I said, they kind of forced me. And I have this recorded. They said divorce her, and you'll get your kids back. And I have this recorded.
Yeah,
So this is what I mean. So I think really my next step is, because it other people in my family and out of in lower 48, I'm getting ready to do a power of attorney, so that if they find somebody there to help, they will be me over there without me going over there. So that's another one of my next steps.
yeah. We have a comment that came in from Noon Atoll. I can't imagine being unhoused in Alaska. Uh,
No, don't. Don't. it's
yeah.
it's
So
not good at all.
yeah. So Noon, I don't know where you're from. It'd be nice if you tell me the state. Yes,
I'm
send it
from
to
New
me.
York.
No,
Oh,
no, I'm
oh, you
talking
mean?
about
Okay.
Noon. Yeah. You're from New York originally,
Yeah.
but you're living in Alaska right now and work in
Yeah.
Alaska. So, and that's because that's where your case was opened up, and that's where you have to fight it. It's it's really hard. I don't know why they would give you a public defender or a lawyer in Michigan to help you with
See,
Alaska. That's
that's the
ridiculous.
whole part. That's
Yeah.
the whole part, because everybody conflict out of interest of here.
Well, they
That's
may
in
have
this
a
loop.
control over that person. They may have something over that person that can
Yeah.
manipulate them, and so
Yes.
I'd stay away from that situation in there. So, have you thought about talking to Mr. Davis at all?
I was hoping that I could talk. I tried calling the office. I spoke with somebody, but it didn't really work out. And if it was possible to physically talk to that man, I would love to
Well,
talk with that
I'm
man.
telling you right now that if you call into 888 and tell them that Bob Pace sent you for an appointment with Mr. Davis at the time that he's available. And again, my apologies go out for attempting to try to talk to him. But if you mention my name, they will set up a time with Mr. Davis, and he'll schedule 30 minutes to an hour with the
Okay.
strategies and maybe help you in the right direction. You know, so uh, he's a very fair lawyer. He does have a retainer that he has to work for a living, but he makes it based on the complexity of the case, the length of the case, and the location. So it's a sliding scale. It isn't one number fits all. But he's not. One thing I know from experience, he's worth every penny. He's worth every penny. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Right now, you're not like Donald Trump with all those money to hire all those attorneys. So
Right.
it's really, 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 really hard. I mean, I just, when he supposedly has that kind of money that he can fight all those fronts, and again, that's just strictly all politics. That's nothing really to do with what he does, because no one ever in history that I can remember has been that persecuted because he just wants to let the people decide. Don't let the other people, because they know the people that are against him, that the people will decide, and that's what they're scared of. They're scared of him on that. So I just I admire you keeping your records and doing all that. I'm going to have to end this show because we've gone a full hour, and I
Yep.
appreciate you taking time, to talk to us from Alaska. It's really cold up there. I know California right now has had a terrible storm, and we're cold too. Our mountains are down to 27 and lots of snow, so we're having some
Negative
trouble.
49 here. Negative
Wow,
49 here.
49, that is cold.
Negative
So,
49.
yeah,
Negative 49.
yeah, that is cold. That's 49 degrees below zero. Wow, wow. And so anyway, I want you to wish you the best of luck. Just
Same.
remember this: you're going to be able to stick with it. You will win in the end. It's for those that give up too easy, and it is a trial on you. But as long as you do what they say, to say yes, no, and try to get some legal help, you succeed in what you're trying to do. You have the records. Don't lose them, and that's really good to all you listeners out there. But I want the best of luck to you, and thank you so much for sharing your time. And
Yep. Same.
with that being said, I'm going to thank all my listeners. And again, I'm on 7 days a week, 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I love to hear you all. The same number, 888-888-6582. Same number you can reach and schedule a time with Mr. Davis or schedule the show, and you can get an attorney that he's offering a free 30-minute to an hour session of strategies. So don't give up, all your listeners. And I want to thank Jeannie and Noon for their comments. That was nice here. And one time we had up to 7 people in here and 2 thumbs up. So that was really good. So best of luck to you in the new year. Um, Hopefully, lots of happiness. And this is God bless. And this is Bob Pace signing out, and see you this evening.